Hello and welcome back to the Animal Communicator and Healers Summit. I'm your host, Dr. Cara Gubbins, and I'm so pleased that you decided to join me here in the All Access Pass membership area for this bonus interview with Diana Del Monte. And in this interview, she's going to be telling us why we should listen when our animals don't, how our animals' behavior and health mirror who we are. Such an intriguing topic, and I can't wait to dive deeper into this. And welcome back, Diana.
Hi, thank you. Good to be back.
It's so cool. We started talking about this a little bit because we were talking about your free gift, and you have lots of great stories to share. But where's the best place to start? Are there certain areas that are common ways that animals are acting as mirrors for us?
Yeah, so many ways. I would say, well, in general, we really need to watch our thoughts because, your animals can see what you're thinking. And, if your animals are fighting, for example, um, are you thinking about them fighting? And one case I had, the woman actually became aware, or she noticed that when she wasn't home, they didn't fight. And as it turned out, she was anticipating a fight because they had fought before, and it's hard not to, right? But when she got it out of her mind and stopped thinking about it, they stopped fighting. So that's just a very general example about how they can pick up on your thinking. Pee issues are very common. What I found was where an animal pees, if they're peeing all over the house, that could be, their issue, or it could be that, they're picking up stress in the home or something kind of more general. But if they're peeing on your clothes or in your, on your in your bedroom, then they're trying to say something to you. And there was this one dog, Monster, who he was a bulldog, and he was pooping in the bedroom. And long story short, and this really has a lot to do with how we assume our animals, we don't need to tell them things that they know. In this case, all I heard from Monster was, I don't want to be left alone. And the woman didn't know what I was talking about. She never left him alone. They take Monster with him everywhere and blah, blah, blah. And finally, we ended the session because Monster was still pooping. And all I kept hearing was, I don't want to be left alone. I couldn't get past that. And she didn't know what I was talking about. So we're ending the session. And she says to me in conversation, oh, well, my husband and I are going on vacation pretty soon. And I said, have you told Monster? And so just think about if your partner is packing his suitcase or her suitcase, they're leaving, but you want to know where they're going, when are they returning, who are they going to, who's going to take care of me when you're gone. And so once that was resolved, Monster was okay. So we really need to be very honest with our animals. Tell them what's going on in your life. If you're stressed out, talk about it with your animal. If you're holding things back, you'll see your animal biting, for example, aggression issues very often. And yes, sometimes they can be protecting you, but what's the root cause behind that? Why are they protecting you? And there was one pit bull who was nipping at people in the lobby of the New York City apartment, not outside, but inside the lobby and in the elevator. And usually, when you're working with this, you have to peel a lot of layers, and we did, and the problem wasn't being resolved. And finally, we nailed it. And when you nail it, when the animal's behavior changes, right? And so what happened was the woman, again, she wasn't speaking out. She was holding something back that she needed to tell her husband. She didn't like when he left. She was feeling lonely and vulnerable. And when all of this came out in the open, the dog stopped nipping at people. So sometimes we don't express ourselves, um, and we hold back, the animal's going to act out. The animal will speak up for us. And then we have uh, well, death and dying. you know, if you're grieving heavily and you just don't want to let go, the animal's going to be feeling this. It's funny. There was one dog who wouldn't play in the park anymore. He had arthritis, and the woman was just so upset because she didn't think her dog could have quality of life anymore. And all he would do is just sit with her. And finally, I realized, because if you're not getting information from the animal, then it's the person. It turns out the person was thinking that her dog couldn't play in the park and that he was compromised. And when she changed her thoughts about this, he started playing in the park again. So it goes on, but there's all different ways in which they're going to mirror what you're feeling.
I love that. And it's a great reminder that it's all out there. There are no secrets. It's all there. You mentioned talking to your pets, like if you're grieving or sad or, having strong emotions about something, just talking to them about it. And I can just hear people in the background going, but I don't want to burden my pet with my problems. What do you say to that?
In terms of when they're approaching their transition, you mean?
Or just in general, I think that, I hear a lot from people, well, I don't want to, I don't want my dog to take on my sadness, or, say their parent passes on and they're feeling sad, but they don't want to tell their dog because then their dog's going to be sad, or take on their grief for them, that sort of thing.
Well, as long as you're not expressing it, that's when your animals are going to, take it on, because, our animals want us to be happy, right? And so if let's say you're sad, well, I can a very quick example of this dog that was peeing in the house, and he showed me a white dog, and I felt a lot of extreme sadness, and I heard, I don't want to go back. I had no idea what this meant. It turned out the man was grieving his other dog, white dog, and the new beagle didn't know the dog. He got the beagle after his white dog had died. And so he had this white dog in his mind all the time, grieving, sad. The beagle is confused, doesn't know what's going on. The man is frustrated because he's peeing. And the man would say, I'm going to take you back to the rescue. And the dog had already been returned several times. So the point here is, when the man told the dog, cry to your dog, it's not going to make the dog sad. It's going to, the animal wants to be included in your, with this. They like it when you get it out in the open. And when he told the beagle that, who the white dog was, and he stopped, he made a point to pay more attention to the new dog now, and not stay in that grieving state. The dog stopped peeing in the house. So it's okay to tell your animal, all this is going on and I'm really a mess right now, but I can handle it and I'm going to get through. And thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. I'm so glad you're here and you make me happy, and let's play.
I love that. One of the things that your stories also bring up is kind of the detective work that has to happen to really understand these situations, which I think is great for people in general to know, but also, again, aspiring animal communicators, people who are just learning, to really understand the ropes and the ins and outs of the process, that there may be some questions you have to ask the person to get clarity about what the animal is communicating.
And it's difficult sometimes because the person may not quite know themselves. I had this one dog, it was a Doberman, who had a lot of anxiety, pacing in the car, and all I heard was, I don't want to be confined. Well, there was multi-layers, a lot, some things are simple, but like monster pooping, right, in the bedroom. But a lot of things have multi-layers. So you have to keep probing and peeling off the layers. And what happened here was, we made a lot of headway. Uh, the nutshell is that the person of the dog was gone all day, and then he went to the gym. The dog was always in the home. He used to beat him when he was younger with a red leash. The dog showed me that. He was still traumatized. A lot of different issues. Wasn't present with his dog. Loud music in the car. The dog showed me all this. And the person said, yes, yes, it's true, it's true, it's true. But we hadn't nailed it yet. I says, well, why is he saying he doesn't want to be confined? There was a missing link that I didn't know what it was. And I kept going back to the dog, hearing the same thing. And finally, I said, you don't put your dog in a cage, a crate. No, I would never do that to my dog. I don't, no. So another case here where I threw my hands up in the air. I said, I don't know how to help you anymore. Maybe you should, call someone else. So we're talking on the phone after the session was over. And this was like several, sessions. We're talking on the phone and he says, well, I said, what do you do for a living? He said, oh, I, travel around and I go here, I go there. I'm traveling again in a couple of weeks. I said, oh, wonderful. What do you do with your dog when you're gone? You have a house sitter? He said, oh, I take him to a kennel. I said, you put him in a cage? And he said, oh my God, he hadn't even connected the two. And that was the crux of the whole problem. He didn't want to go back to that kennel. When he was in the car, he didn't know where he was going to be going. So he was pacing, so nervous. Am I going to the kennel? Am I going to the kennel? So it's so important that we talk to our animals, Tell them when you're going on vacation. Tell them everything. They understand.
It's the take-home message for sure. Be honest with our animals, be honest with ourselves. Know that there's a reason, right? Like if the behavior isn't changing, then you've just said it so many times, like it just hadn't clicked yet. We just hadn't gotten that missing piece. There's a reason, keep going, because nothing happens in a vacuum. Our animals are not living, out on an island without anything else going on. They're living in our houses, in our families, in our energy field, with our thoughts, with our feelings, all of that. And so often there's, to me, it's a synergy between, the people and the animals. There's this very dynamic give and take relationship, and the communication is happening in all these different ways. It may be the behavior is communicating something. It may be, that we actually communicate in words or images or whatever, but it's all animal communication.
Mm-hmm. And it's so true. We're always, we're always exchanging, like quantum physics, every atom is communicating and connected to every other atom, constantly in motion. And that's, every cell of our body and everything. We're always giving information to our animals unconsciously. And they're also giving us information, but we're so busy in the mind, we don't hear them.
Yeah.
Communicating to us.
Here's what's really going on in my mind right now. And I think that it's really fascinating. Before we started recording our interviews today, I actually opened up my slider door in my bedroom so that my dog could come and go, because he often gets frustrated being outside and he'll bark. And so I'll be sitting here for half an hour recording an interview, listening to him bark, and I'm talking to him, I'm sending him grounding cords, I'm sending him pictures. But I was like, no, I'm not going to do that today. And he came inside and he started barking to get into my son's room. So I opened that door. I was like, you have full reign of the house. But the reframe that I'm having right now is, as a family, we don't know, because there's 4 humans here. There's 2 dogs, there's a cat, there's a rabbit. There's a reason that he's doing this, that he has open doors, but he wants the attention of somebody to open a door for him, to let him in where he wants to go. And that could be reflecting something inside me. It could be my husband, my son, my daughter. It could be one of the other animals as well. But this whole conversation is really helping me to get ready to look at, okay, so what is this reflecting about us? And maybe it's me, maybe it's somebody else, but I think our whole family can have this conversation because it's happening for a reason. And
And
especially when you present solutions and they don't work, you're like, okay, there's something deeper going on here.
exactly. And it's hard with your own animals, right?
It's so easy to see it in other people.
Gosh, because I had a cat who was scratching his face to a pulp, and he had it was a fungus issue. It wasn't entirely me, but my stress did make it worse. And I started to notice. Well, my coworkers noticed. I didn't notice. I'd go to work and I'd say, "Oh God, Garfield's a mess again," and they'd say, "Yeah, look where you are. You're at the job that you hate." And I started to notice every time I went to that job, he would start scratching. And I didn't like the job, and he knew how stressed out I was. They can feel they can feel it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, if I had an argument with somebody at work, I would come home and his face would be a mess. Like they could even sense that. So they've got animals have their radar out all the time. We have our radar out all the time, but we don't know, unless we're aware of it. So we don't know what we're broadcasting, and they're picking it all up, like you said.
And we, everything that you've shared with us it hasn't clicked yet. So there's something there. You have to look at it from a different angle or have that bigger picture. It seems like sometimes it's just that bigger picture or somebody else to reflect it back to you that's really helpful.
Yes, and sometimes too, you know, it's not always. Of course, it's not always a mirror. Oftentimes it's the animal. Um, but what's I gonna? Oh, I was gonna say about this aggression in this horse. It was a mini horse, and he was so angry, wouldn't let anybody near him. And all he said to me, all he kept saying to me was, "Where's my mother?" And I asked him, I tune into him again, and he'd say, "I want to know what happened to my mother." And the third time, "Where did they take my mother?" And finally, I said to the woman, "What's going on? Who's his mother?" And it turned out he had a surrogate mother. It was a goat, and the goat pretty much raised him, and she wasn't even allowed to buy the mini horse without the goat. She bought them together, but she wanted to train the horse to be a therapy horse, and the horse wouldn't pay attention to her. So her friend said, "Well, maybe you should get rid of the goat and he'd pay more attention to you." And so she did. And this horse was heartbroken.
Hmm.
So here's a case, just think about all the times when we just don't, we forget that animals have their families and friends, and we don't always know what we're doing. This woman was very kind and compassionate. She didn't know the devastation that she was about to create for her horse, and she could never get the goat back. She didn't know what happened to him. So she finally, relocated the horse to a ranch where there's other mini horses and a lot of goats. But still, when you lose your loved one, you might find someone else, but it's not a replacement.
No, it's
So
not the
everything
same.
is different than us.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's very sad.
Diana, any final words that you want to share with us about how our animals are acting as mirrors for us?
Well, I just want to say that if your animals are fighting, don't give one away. I deal with this all the time. Don't give and don't give the one that was there first away. Work it out. Just give it time and work it out. And I always say, if your animals aren't drawing, blood flying all over, and if it's not really that intense, then deal with it. They don't have to like each other. And if they're urinating around the home, don't just put them outside or give them away. Just remember that they're trying to show you something. They're not happy for a reason. And it's time to delve into yourself and maybe, look. Open your eyes a little bit, open the heart.
Well, and I think this presentation is going to do exactly that, really give people the framework of understanding all the different ways that these things can play out in our lives and how everything can be information for us that we can use to make everybody happier and healthier.
Mm-hmm.
Diana Del Monte, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. And for everybody who wants to stay in touch with you, I just want to remind people that they can get more of you at your website, dianadelmonte.com. Thanks again for being here and being part of the summit and sharing your wisdom with us. And thanks everybody for being part of the summit as well. Look forward to seeing you next time. Have a beautiful day. Bye, everybody.